Alright, so this is my 1 divine budget Autobomber Chieftain. The purpose of this build is to provide players with a cheap option to get started with in order to farm Affliction Juice T16s and save currency towards upgrades or other builds. These are my requirements for the build. I want at least 90% max elemental resistances, capped chaos resistance, and minimum 4,000 life in my health pool. And this all needs to be achieved within a 1 divine budget. So initially I was able to sell my divine, listed it up for 205 chaos and get it sold within about 30 seconds. Looking over at the trade site, you could probably sell your divine for around 210c, but since I didn't want to spend too much time waiting on the divine to sell, I decided to decrease the price to 205c in order to get it sold almost immediately. So the first item I wanted to buy was a Cloak of Flame. I bought this for 9c. The main modifier we're interested in is this 40% of physical damage taken as fire damage. Keep in mind that this modifier also applies to damage over time effects, unlike the lightning coil, which specifically only applies to physical hits. The next item I got was a Bloodnotch jewel for 20c. I ideally wanted this roll to be as close to 50% as possible, but looking back in retrospect, I could probably cut down on cost here, especially since we have such a tight budget, if I went for a roll somewhere between 40 to 45% instead. Now for the Immutable Force, I was able to buy this jewel for 5c at a roll of 602%. For the next item, I actually didn't include in the overall cost of this build, especially since I was able to buy it for 5 chromatics. Now for this cluster jewel, I bought this for 9 chaos and spammed around 40 to 50 alterations in order to get plus 5% to chaos resistance modifier, and with 17% chaos resistance on each small passive, I got a total of 51% chaos resistance from this cluster jewel alone. The next item I got was a Rise of the Phoenix for 1 chaos. The main modifier that we're interested in here is the plus 5 to maximum fire res here. It's also useful for this build because of the high life regeneration it also provides, as well as the fire resistance and movement speed that you get on low life. And since this build is on low life constantly anyways, that is just free stats that you're getting from this shield. So the weapon I decided to go with was a Singularity, which I bought for 2 chaos. It basically hinders nearby enemies and allows us to get a free 100% increased damage with hits and ailments against any enemies that we hinder. So for the rings, the main modifiers I wanted on them were maximum life as well as chaos resistance in order to reach the chaos resistance cap. On my second ring, which I decided to splurge a little bit more, the reason I did that was for the 37 total to dexterity, and I also got lucky that it had a roll for intelligence as well. Now for this amulet, the main modifier I was interested in was actually the 44 dexterity. I got lucky that it had 22 to all attributes as well, which would help out with the intelligence requirements. On the helmet, I bought this helmet for 4 chaos. I really wanted a high life roll, as well as the implicit. I bought this specifically for the physical damage shifting implicit, and since it came with a bench crafted prefix, I was able to swap that out for the physical damage shifting benchcraft for another 4 chaos as well. Now for the boots, I bought this for 7 chaos. The main modifier I was interested in was the +1 to maximum fire res, high life roll, as well as 30% increased movement speed. Now this pair of boots came with increased life regeneration implicit already, so I didn't really necessarily need more life regeneration on the benchcraft, so I decided to swap it over for a chance to avoid bleeding, since bleeding does deal quite a bit of damage to this build. So by this point of the build, I had all of my resistances capped, so I was really only interested in saving currency. Really, I bought this for 3 chaos, and I got lucky that it had a pretty high life roll, good amount of strength, which would increase the total max life, and also a 14% increased life regeneration rate modifier. Now the only gem that I decided to purchase outright at level 20 instead of level 1 from the vendor was Purity of Fire, which I bought for 5 chaos, and the reason for this was by this point of the build I had 86% max fire res, and the 4% additional max fire res you get from this gem at level 20 was enough to put me at 90% max fire res and meet my minimum requirements for the build overall. Now on my flask, the only modifier I was really interested in getting was the use when charges reach full. Technically, the best modifier you'd want to aim for is use when charges reach full, as well as the prefix, where you gain 3 charges when you're hit by an enemy. But that does get quite expensive for a lot of the flasks, so the only modifier I could aim for here was use when charges reach full. This one I bought for 10c. My Sapphire Flask I got pretty lucky for 15c. it actually came with all the modifiers that I wanted, and it was quality, so that was pretty nice. My Ruby Flask I got for 5C. Nothing too special about this, aside from, I guess the suffix is quite nice in getting a little bit of an extra boost in life regeneration from the fire resistance that it would provide. And on the Quicksilver Flask, absolutely nothing special about this at all. Nothing really important here, aside from use when charges reach full. I think I bought this for 15C, I believe. Yeah, I think it was 15C. For the Topaz Flask, I also bought for another 15C. I did alt spam this into something else. I forget what the modifiers were, but you definitely don't need corrupted blood immunity on your flask, since I do run it on one of the passive tree mastery nodes. And so that leaves me with 27 chaos left over. The total cost of this build was 178 chaos. I'll leave all of the cost breakdowns in the description of the video. Thanks for watching the video, and I hope to see you all next time.